Hey, I saw you guys. How are you? You guys single file?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. I was going to ask you if you wouldn't mind telling me why people are wearing white shirts and red bandanas.
The white shirt is to be in opposition of the black oil.
Okay.
And the red bandanas and the dollar bills are to symbolize how we don't have a voice in this country.
Okay.
Because the dollar has the almighty voice these days.
Cool.
So.
All right, I just wanted to let people out there know that. A lot of people are not going to understand why people are wearing these things, so I just wanted to find that out. Cool.
Ready to go?
Oh, let's go!
Over!
It's not booked. From our house. I like that one. That's pretty good.
You guys shouldn't be a solo. You should be here now on backbeat.
Oh, backbeat, too.
I saw it. Yeah.
I know that song. I like that song.
You think that silent protest is bullshit? Essentially, like the voice should be heard.
Yeah, I mean, we have freedom of speech for a reason, you know, and I don't really. There's a lot of like trying to wrap everything up in unity and say that it's won by everyone being silent and taping things over their mouth and such. I don't think that's getting the point out. That you know that. People don't hear, people don't understand it, and it comes off just as one message, like they're upset against like oil. But you know, you have a watch, we use these phones,
Sure.
things like that. The problem
We got here.
Yeah,
Right.
the problem isn't like oil. The problem, and the problem is government collusion that you know that creates situations such as how do I put it? When government helps them to regulate, they like. In other industries, you can see it more, but in the oil industry, a couple of examples are like pipelines. When a pipeline company replaces pipeline, they get 75% of that paid for. In a real free market system, any business would have to pay their own way. You know, so there's things like that. Not to mention the fact that they even exist. Like you and I are people. We exist as entities just from being. Corporations are collections of people that then get a government decree to do things we can't do. And so I think people like me with Houston Free Thinkers are here to talk to some of the people that are upset about this, about possibly some freedom-related solutions, rather than just further regulation, further empowerment. Because if you look, these regulators, what the FDA is now former head of Monsanto, government, Goldman Sachs, constantly, people are going from Goldman Sachs to the Treasury. That's the problem, And yeah, it's a deep-rooted problem, but shutting up and just marching around with some signs against oil, I don't think that's really going to accomplish anything. They're going to come off like a bunch of people who are just mad about oil companies, and that's kind of vague. And really the main reason they said they were up here in their General Assembly is that the oil companies were asking for a tax rebate to cover some new expense that was thrust on them by government. That they don't think that the oil companies should get a tax rebate. And most of the people I talk to, they don't really know much about like the oil industry, research and development, cost, and what their real profit margin is. So they want to somehow keep the price low, put more demands on them, and not allow them to have a rebate for that. I'm not sure that I would take the stand against that. I would take the stand against the collusion. So that's why we're up here. That's why I got this sign that says corporatism no, capitalism yes. Because like, if you don't get out here with your view when people get up and start doing things, then the only view will be whoever they put out in front. I mean, that's how they put like Sarah Palin out of nowhere in front of the Tea Party. People were ticked off. They weren't all what the Tea Party's called now. And it's the same thing I see happening with this. They're going to have put people out in front as as they appropriate the movement and say, look, our people are out there and they're ticked. We better get out and lead. you know, and try to appropriate it and channel it, and so that's why we get out. Anytime someone's upset, it's like, okay, well, they're upset. We all see this fire, so let's talk about solutions.
And you're trying to like maybe guide the direction as opposed to just haphazardly, okay, we'll march and say we're pissed off with no necessary end result, where you're saying if you kind of guided that energy in the right way and got on the same page.
If you look for solutions and discuss the solutions, I think that serves a lot more than saying let's all wear white and let's all tape our mouths shut. And they're so worried about being together on the same page, as you said, but not in solutions, in just outrage. And that's not really going to go anywhere. That's not going to make us have a better day tomorrow.
Right, and I love the comparison you did with the Tea Party, because, you know, not even saying what side I'm on of it, just watching the Tea Party, it seems like there's a whole bunch of members that have this fire that burns inside of them. But there's no real leader, there's no real direction for that fire. It's just a group of people here are pissed off, a group of people there are pissed off.
I actually like that in a way, but you need to have the principle unify rather than a person. And what keeps happening is they'll come up with a manufactured, what do they call it, like a packaged rebellion. You know, they'll put they'll put people out there like a Glenn Beck or a Sarah Palin and say, look, this represents the Tea Party. But if you went to a Tea Party or you went to an Occupy, you'd see who was there. You know, and you see on the Chronicle and these different papers the people that are saying things, and you hear them drive by, get a job, you know. I mean, these people don't know anything, and so but shaping a public opinion by massive news agencies such as your own, is really like crucial in shaping these minds. But it's also really dangerous, because when we just put someone out and we say this is that movement, you don't really get a taste of it. So I appreciate what you're doing, you know, here on the ground and like talking to the people themselves. You're local news websites that I've written articles for that are liberal leaning, because they were friends of mine from school, and we have like how we put up our own stuff. But nonetheless, these sites, they would ask me to write things for them, or I would write things and they would go and take them initially because they were my friends. They thought it was okay. But it's like we were always on other sides of issues, and I'm like, why do you always take it? And they're like, well, you write it so well, you put the position out there so clearly.
Stop the XL pipelines. Reclaim the earth. Stop the XL pipeline. Reclaim the earth.
Defend private property.
Good. See, they need more of you.
Well, you got to bring the solutions that are there. Those channels have already been worked, and we might be able to, like, if we fought on those fronts, we might be able to do something about it. You know, they were able to stop the Trans-Texas corridor right on those grounds. You know, I mean, we can't sit here and say we represent this and then turn around and anytime it's convenient, just, you know, you piss on the Constitution or whatever.
Absolutely. And I do like the points you're talking about, how they just, okay, well, now Glenn Beck's leader, or now, you know, Palin's leader. And the one thing I've noticed is that if I follow mainstream media, I get pissed off at their leader, because I'm like, well, I'm not for anything you're saying, you know, maybe a tenth of it at best, and that I don't hear in the mainstream media. But anytime I've gone on the ground floor and seen, you know, a movement like this, or a Tea Party movement specifically, you really get the sense of the diversity that you have within that group, and you never get that sense in mainstream media. It's so easy to paint with a broad brush and go, okay, well, they're a bunch of racist, upper class white Americans.
You're right. I almost slipped into the same thing when you hear the. At first, I was really happy about the Wall Street stuff, because I'm a big. I really have a problem with the Federal Reserve. It's unconstitutional. So I was very happy about the Wall Street stuff. But then when I heard some of the demands, I got a little creeped out, because a lot of them were statist solutions, you know. And so when we started coming down here at the beginning on Thursday, I was like a little hesitant. People were like, "Oh no, you're going to go stand with those people. They don't stand for anything you're standing for." And I'm like, "Wait a minute, they're people. I have freedom of speech. They're concerned about the fire. We're just disagreeing on how to deal with it. If I don't get down there, there's going to be people with statist solutions. There's going to be people with no solutions. But people have to be there with the freedom solutions. And as soon as we're not, that's when it'll be appropriated, because they can just say they're all this. And that's what I don't like about the whole group think.
No one's talking.
There's a lot of that. I'm wondering to what level, like union influence, like the SEIU. I mean, have you seen any of that here? Because
I haven't.
Okay, so I'm trying to figure that out.
I started trying to ask around and really get in there, and some people were nice, but they had no clue. One person, they're like, "Sure, I'll interview," and I said, "Why are you here?" And they just stared at me like a deer.
A blank stare.
Eyes. Like, you don't know why you're wearing a white shirt and something's taped over your mouth. Are you bored? And like, do you need a hobby? Like, you must know what you're doing here. And they feel like they just need to be pissed off at the man. they don't know what direction.
Here's something I was saying earlier, and I think it ties into it. When they tape over their mouth and they all put the white shirt on and they can't speak, then only the leadership speaks for them. And the message becomes honed. And one night they told me, we're just going to get a lot of people and then we'll tell you what it's about. And this likens to like Herman Cain or something saying, vote for me and then I'll tell you what my foreign policy is. Or just let's go to bed now and then I'll tell you if I'm clean or not.
Right.
You know?
Right. Okay, so tape your mouth shut, dress up in this uniform, march around a couple blocks, and I'll let you know later why you're doing it.
If we're not in their white shirt, they've already told us we won't
be protected by their legal team.
We won't be protected and we won't be affiliated.
Good. I'm protected by the First Amendment.
Sure, right.
To be here. I don't need your legal team. All I need is my First Amendment right. That's all I need.
That's how they're able to not have anything to say to you. Because they're just upset and they're like in groupthink. They're not really thinking. They come up here, someone guides them, and see, since they don't even have to take legal responsibility for the stand they make or moral responsibility for the stand they make, they don't think about it, so they have no answers for you. So even the people that are going against this crowd in a way have more answers, you know?
Right. No, absolutely, and they at least know whether it's right or wrong, and that can be up to each individual, I suppose, on their limits as to right or wrong. You're at least understanding their standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, we're here to talk about that. You know?
If I told you my religious belief and I told you, oh, I can't tell you why I believe that, well, I don't really put up a good argument for you to hop over to my religion or my non-religion, as it were. Where if at least the person that might be your opposition, when they speak a clear mind and they have their talking points, as annoying as talking points can be, you at least know where they're standing.
That's right.
As opposed to the people who are, you know, looking at me like I'm the spawn of Satan because I'm
it's
not
a real
wearing
argument rather than an emotional. You know, these people are.
There's a weird disconnect because there's this emotional reaction, and it seems like half of them don't even know why.
And you said it, an emotional reaction. You know, because emotion isn't going to be free motion. It's like cause. So they're out there and they don't know why, and so how could they be freely acting? They don't even know why they're here. And is it any wonder they don't want them to speak?
Sure, and they can't even voice their own individual reasons why they're here. I mean, you would think that they had their own.
Yeah, even if it wasn't well hashed out. Even if it was like the rich are evil, let's eat them, which I wouldn't subscribe to at all. At least it would be a sentiment and a thought. And it goes, the rich are, it's got a premise and a conclusion. It might not be sound or valid, but it's an attempt.
It's an opinion. And someone voiced it, as opposed to going, I don't know, I just take my mouth shut and walk around like an ant marching.
Yeah, they're going to walk around the Energy Fest. And my view is this is City Hall, and you know you could just like walk right on through.
That's what I thought they were going to do at first. I'm like, oh, this is going to be some good.
To me, if they had a clear-cut goal in mind, they would go talk to those people. They would engage them in a peaceful manner, and say, I'm against what your company represents because. But by being silent, what are you really, I mean, what are you accomplishing?
And it's so easy, like you were saying, not only for the leaders to say, well, they're representing us because of this. It's so easy for the opposition to be like, well, now they're doing this.
They are what these four said they are.
I mean, how easy would it be for me as a journalist to just take any picture I want of these people with the bandanas or the mouth show the dollar bill and go, they stand for this, they stand for no free market, they stand for no capitalism, and just label it however I want it.
There are some journalists with an agenda to do any side of that argument, you know, for whatever premise they want.
Well, I would argue that of all the journalists that exist, there's you know a drop in the bucket that actually give a crap about the truth.
But when you look at how they're all getting narrowed down to just a few, is it any wonder there's not room for it? It's like DJs. There's not room for that personal DJ. But guess what? Once that personal DJ's gone and once that personal journalist is gone, who gives a damn about reading that same? When you read that 100 troops went into Uganda, who cares? You know, once it's just that news line and a couple of pictures and this is like the Tea Party, this is the Occupy.
And you know, half of them are reporting it because it came from the upper tiers anyway. It's very 1984-esque.
Well, you see both sides pointing.
And this is where it all starts, right? I mean, 100 years from now, if it keeps going this direction.
Well, Adam Kokesh went to D.C. to try to tape their Occupy D.C. group, and they blocked him. They didn't want him there. He went, and then they were in a public place, having a meeting in a public place. This is a national movement. You would think that they would want to be covered, and they literally stood in front of the camera guy and blocked him.
Unbelievable.
And you know,
and they talk about being the 99%.
And then it's like, you don't want a voice. You don't want the country to know what you're here for, and what you're trying to accomplish. What you're trying to do.
99%, we're part of your 99%. Your paradigm.
See, that's why I'm thinking.
Fit into that, then they don't even. You're more or less like the voice of reason for them that can actually speak today.
Yeah.
And you're on their side, so to speak, to paint
Right.
with a broad brush of the fire burning, and they're rejecting you because you don't look like them, you're not marching
Right.
like them, and you want to speak your voice.
And I got a few
So
different
now you're not
solutions,
covered.
you know?
Yeah.
Right,
Other
right.
than
No,
like
God forbid.
minimum
So-
wage
Yeah,
at $20 an
exactly,
hour.
yeah.
Right,
I'm
yeah.
like,
I
you know how
couldn't
much a
believe that. It
hamburger would
was
cost?
that really upset
Like
me.
that is one of their demands, is $20 an hour minimum wage. And my God, you know, talk about hurting
an
out
hour
of
minimum
DC.
wage.
That was
We're
that
gonna
was
have
the
to start getting
New
a
York
little
City
realistic
I'm like, you
here.
know,
Occupy Wall Street demand.
Yeah.
Right.
That was one of them.
Those
One of
people,
them.
man. That,
Yeah.
Like a hamburger is going to cost like $40 in a moment. You know?
Right,
Okay, let's
exactly.
be realistic. $6.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, seriously. And when you see like the extreme sign, like I love your sign. I love a lot of people's signs here. But there's always the
I like
ones that
signs
are
because they're
extreme.
expression.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I used
Yeah.
to do pro wrestling, and signs got us paid, right? When people would hold them up. So I love the expression on any venue, whether it's a music concert or a great social movement like this, or what should be a great social movement. But you see some signs like oil is obsolete. No.
Meanwhile, you look at their shoes and
right,
everything.
I mean, they don't even realize that the electricity they run their house
And
on
they're
is
going to
based
go
on
get that
this.
new CD. And
Right. Yes.
Yeah, there are
absolutely.
a
It's
lot
the
of
same
them.
people that march against animal rights and they wear the leather shoes.
And that's how they're
Yeah.
able to get in
the
it,
leather
because they're
coat. It's
moved
like,
by
okay.
emotion. You know, they're
Right.
like, yeah, those
And it
fat
sounds
cats.
good, right? It
Those-
sounds catchy. You know, oil's obsolete.
care
Well,
about
no,
the-
it actually runs the entire world.
Yeah, it's the blood of the world
Right.
now. You know?
Right. Now that might need a change, and that'd be a better sign.
Yeah.
You know, like let's try to make oil obsolete over the next 100 years. Let's try to make it
Marching
half
to
and
make
half.
oil obsolete or something
Right.
like that. You know, at least, you know, I don't even know if I buy all that, but at least there's a way to approach it where you're
Right.
making
Absolutely.
you're trying to persuade and you're making it palatable.
Right. And a lot of the columns I used to write for, not the Times, a much smaller paper. I'm definitely grateful for this one, where I can get, the message to hundreds of thousands of people. But, I would mention how we might need to take on a more European stance with things, where it's kind of like a half and half, And as soon as you start mentioning Europe here, people freak out.
Yeah,
You hate America. And it's like, no, I don't. You like France, you're a socialist. Like, that they
Got to get you in that category.
Yeah, I
you know? They
know.
got to get you in that white shirt,
Everything
that
must
blue
be
shirt, whatever it is.
compartmentalized.
What label?
Yeah,
exactly.
So that it's a disservice to them.
Compartmentalized.
Exactly. It
Labels, I don't know
compartmentalizes
why.
everything, and
Most people don't get
but see, in the media that sells stories.
Oh, absolutely.
That sells stories.
Absolutely, yes. It's a lot easier to call me a socialist without hearing how, it's like as soon as I bring up France, they're like, you like France, you hate America. Like,
You
no.
Francophile.
Why can I not like America but still admit
or admire this? Isn't that the point in America, that we should be able to at least discuss these things?
Right,
You know?
don't we do that in our own homes, right? I mean, I could be in a very loving marriage, and that doesn't mean the marriage doesn't have problems. And so what do you do with those problems? Do you say, well, if you think we have a problem, you hate our marriage, and get out of the house? Or do you resolve and talk about
it's that baby out with the
solutions to
bathwater.
problems?
You see it time and time again,
Right.
And we're not going back, they just put more and more on the base that would have worked, until it's so loaded down. We can't even get back to it. We have laws that are illegal laws, and we don't even recognize that. And we sit here and complain about the results of that instead of, it's like they want to complain. A big thing was they wanted to go around Chase and Wells Fargo and complain about the banks getting the bailout. And we're up here really arguing to go to the Fed because you can just walk down the street.
Because those families, they run those banks.
I was told, the Fed is the feeding trial.
Come on.
I mean, they couldn't get the dang bailout if it wasn't for the Fed, right? And I'm like, let's go to the trunk. Let's go to the freaking
root of the problem.
Right, exactly.
And they're like, no, let's just...
You go to the boss. You don't go to the bunch of the underbosses.
But what those families want is us having class warfare. They want the class warfare. And look at it.
Sure.
That's what's going on.
Absolutely.
They're playing right into it,
It's worse
dude.
in our time on any level with politics. I mean, I remember as a kid, I was born in 77. I remember in the 80s, it's not as if, just the topic of pro-life or pro-choice wasn't touching it. But you didn't have this venomous behavior. You didn't have this violent behavior amongst normal plebeians like us. You always had the extremists. They've always been around. But now I see it leaking into everywhere. Way more than it ever has before. And that's exactly what they want. They don't want us unified, because that's when you get shit done, right?
Exactly.
When you're unified, stuff changes. When you're arguing amongst yourselves, even if you have the same goal, you're never going to accomplish anything. You have to be organized, which is exactly what you're trying to do. They appear organized because they're in a single file line, right? But you're completely correct. They probably stand for 20 different things, and the rest have no idea what they stand for. And no one's speaking about it. They're told not to speak. Open is silent. And so they look unified, but underneath this layer is just this jumbled mess.
It's a facade.
Right.
There's like the 5 people speaking are somewhat unified, and the other people maybe, there's probably some people close to that, but the other people are just people they brought, like these other,
Right.
Yet it's supposed to be a leaderless movement.
Yes, right. But yet you can see.
But there's a hierarchy, I can promise you.
And the
Once you go to the
people-
General
yes.
Assemblies, you start to see there's a hierarchy. There's a hierarchy.
They said we're
for
going to
sure.
stay.
Creepy, you know,
It's
it's actually creepy.
I told him
Eerie.
Monday when we were there,
Stuff gives
and
me the
we
heebie-jeebies.
I felt so. I was like, I got to get out of here.
Right.
This made it made me feel weird, you know.
Yeah,
The
no, it is.
leadership,
It's
the
like-
non-leader
it's weird.
leadership would get
Yeah.
up there, and almost every time the non-leader leadership went up there, they would say mic check.
Right.
Mic check was supposed to be if people couldn't hear, you know, that everybody would repeat it. But then
Signify gathered at.
They were marching.
They were
around
marching that
the
way and
corner.
around.
I think they're circling. I think so.
so I started noticing that the leaders, non-leaders, would get up there and mic check right away. So then, like, the people that are heard is right away repeating everything they say.
Right.
You know, and if you're in the crowd and you might barely be able to hear, someone else might say mic check all frustrated at you, and then everybody's repeating it or something. But those guys would go right up to the front and say it each time, you know.
Amazing.
Yeah, and one time I asked them,
insane.
I asked, and I probably said this to a couple people, but I asked the first day, you know, and I hope I'm not a broken record here. I asked the first day, the guy, one of these guys said, we're gonna figure out if we're gonna stay here till our goals are accomplished, or if we're gonna move, or what we're gonna do. And I waited, and I'm like, what are our goals? And he's like, well, if you don't know, I can't help you. And I'm just like,
How
wow.
easy is that, right?
Yeah.
It's just like when you challenge religion, you know, like why is it like that?
If you don't believe in God, then I can't point it out to you.
I can't help you. It's just something you feel.
It's a faith.
Or
It's
I
faith.
can't help you,
Yeah.
right? You know, and then you challenge something, right? Like, well, what about this in Genesis where there's two different creation stories? This is just the way it is, and his ways are better than ours.
And if we
they
want
just
to change it, we got to get out
to
and
march,
talk.
right?
And like, you know,
interact, and people don't need to be.
That's why
afraid of
I don't
Have a
like the
real
silent thing, because it's not engaging.
Right,
I mean,
no one's engaging.
be open, be kind to people, and
Yes.
engage them, and
Right,
listen
you
to
don't
them, and
have to
hear what
be
they have to say, and then
the
talk
asshole
about it.
yelling
Yeah.
at the opposition.
Exactly.
It's like we're all
Engage
humans,
people.
right?
Exactly.
Right.
That is being
Before
proactive.
Right. You know, the first people I tried to interview that would actually talk to me, they looked, 16 or 17 years old. They didn't want to give me their age. That's fine. But I could tell they were in high school. I thought, well, this will be good because, at least you have that, like, sometimes you don't even know why
Bravado.
you're pissed,
Yeah.
but you got it. So I'm like, so tell me today, are you pissed? Are you excited? And he goes, neither really. I'm like, well, what are you doing here today? I'm just
Right.
trying to be part of the movement. What movement?
But why?
Just trying to be part of it.
And what are the goals? What are your goals? What are your reasons for being here? You
Saturday,
you should ask those questions to them.
if you
Yeah.
don't know what you're
Something
doing.
like how much
Exactly,
is
yeah.
lacking in a way that you got to go find something to be part of,
They're
and then not even
excited, they're
know
not
what it
pissed
is.
off, and they don't know what it is.
Like a huge
exactly.
void, and
Right, they just tape up their mouths, and it was 30 seconds after they're like, oh, they're lining up. And it was like so symbolic to like just see it. Like,
Yeah.
Sitting there breathing.
you can't tell me why you're
money.
here. Right. You're covering your mouth now and you're lining up.
You hear a lot of rage, but that's not really gonna. That's that just plain emotion,
Right.
So-
Absolutely. I think we need to switch all the labels around that we have.
I'm hoping that in some ways all this will get people to do that, to get out and they'll stumble on the fact that they do need to talk to people to have a real
Right.
community. That when they just go home and close the doors, that's
What
how
did
it
you
has happened.
accomplish? What did you do? You marched in silence, and then you went home. Besides wasting your time, I mean, I value time. That's one
Yeah,
thing
me
you'll
too.
never get back.
Exactly.
I can lose money and make more money.
Yeah.
I can have someone dump me and get another girlfriend. Yes, exactly.
My time, I'm
Yes.
trading it for something or doing
Yes,
something I
right.
want with
and
it.
that is the most valuable thing you have. So you're spending your afternoon here. It looked like half of them had 9 to 5 jobs, and they get 2 days off a week.
And they're getting
you don't
yelled at
even
for
know.
not having jobs, like they're not, it's the same thing, like they're not even being understood, like, well, they don't understand in some ways, some of them don't understand why they're there. We were talking about how they get out in front and appropriate movements,
Right.
and you see it time and time again. You see it with like even things that are cool, like culturally, like it becomes, kind of, it'll start as like just a spur thing that takes off, and the next thing you know, it's like kind of instituted culturally, and so like I can only use the Tea Party as an example because we just saw that go through. But it wasn't just as if Fox would get out there and say, "Oh, here's what a Tea Party is," and give you Sarah Palin, because after all, those are the people who are supposedly going to this. They say, right? Like saying these are supposedly left people, so they give you somebody like Michael Moore, right?
Right. Oh, absolutely.
But
and let's get the
then
extreme from both
CNN,
camps.
Exactly.
Not
Yeah.
anyone moderate.
Yeah.
both of the lead, like in these type of thinking, which I think is a false dichotomy anyway. But both of these camps, they paint the picture together. So you'll have Fox saying, their spin on what it is, and painting it this way, and then you'll have CNN say, yeah, they're all this
Right.
thing you don't like, which supports the spin Fox is giving. You see what I'm saying? They act oppose the two channels like that,
But they feed each other.
Yeah, and
Now they're all
taking over every.
They're going to the
populist-
bank with it. Right.
Right.
feed
Like
taking
that's what I
over
was saying
every
earlier.
populist.
Compartmentalize, bring it
Yes.
together, and sell it.
Absolutely.
They got to sell
Absolutely.
something
And they keep
to the
feeding it.
public.
Right.
Exactly.
Right, and so they're winning either way because if you're pissed off in one direction, you're watching CNN.
That's
if you're
right.
pissed off in the other direction, you got Fox News.
Yeah, exactly.
And now who's really covering the ground? And I thought his point was great about going to the trunk of the issue. Like,
I don't know if have you seen some of the Occupy Houston protesters going around?
Yeah, I mean, I stopped one guy and I asked him because he had this sign, you know, hate 1%ers or whatever. And I asked him, dude, what is wrong with being a 1%er?
Yeah, we're supposed to protect the 1%.
He goes,
everyone's rights.
I work in the oil and gas and I ain't had a raise and all that. I said, I ain't had a raise. I said, I put myself through college. I've been in self-employed. I had started my own company to be able to go to college, you know. And I've been through bankruptcies. I've had the government try to do everything in the world to me, all so that I can keep a job, make money. You know.
And I
keep people employed. You know. I take cuts in my own self so I keep my people working.
Yeah, they keep telling me.
And they say that because I make a certain wage and everything,
something's wrong.
Yeah, I may be considered
you owe more or something.
But what is the big problem with being a 1%? You know, get out there and bust your ass. You be a 1%.
It seems like we'd want everybody to come together and figure out a better way.
Be a one, you know, I didn't come from.
Well, they're really not so 99% as they try to lead people on. Like I have a blue shirt. If you don't wear a white shirt,
white shirt with a red bandana.
Protection from them. If you don't wear, so like I'm willing to take my stand.
I told them my protection is the First Amendment to the Constitution. Freedom of speech.
I'm a veteran.
I don't need your legal team to protect me. I already have that protection from the Constitution. I don't need that.
And that's like, that's the point.
That's why I wore this shirt. It's not illegal yet. You know?
They talk a lot about camaraderie and solidarity, but as soon as you don't act and dress and think like them, you're not in there 99%.
That's right.
So they're really like not really 99%. It's rhetoric.
I wish them all the luck, and if there's any way,
I'll contact you. I appreciate you saying something. Thank you, Mark.
We got to do something because
we do. Because it's coming apart at the seams.
It's a very divided nation.
Yes, it is.
We have to change the whole system.
That's right.
The entire system.
Yes.
And we can't be bitching about the small stuff.
Right.
So it's going to be an entire system change because it's relationships, it's hearts,
unity, hearts and minds. Winning the hearts and minds on the street. That's the only way you're going to do it.
Good deal.
Anything else is just a bunch of authority yelling something out at them. They don't get it that way.
Well, capitalism is good.
Yes.
Right here, brother.
That's how we make our money.
That's exactly how we make our money. Exactly.
Yes.
If I'm going to be outside selling you
what's going to motivate you more than yourself? Nothing else is going to motivate you more than yourself. And when you're just going to a job because it's mandated, you're going to make the crappiest widgets
I shouldn't have to be coerced into going to some kind of government job or some
given
kind of
1,000 ads
government like imposing on me. That's just not the way it should be.
Somebody posted last night, what is this thing that's in the middle of the street that they kicked us out for? That thing, whatever. And we came, that was the first thing we went to go look for and see what this thing was.
Yeah. Well, we came in here because they were going by with like a taped mouth and being quiet, and we came in. We just started talking to people, you know.
Yeah, we want to engage people in conversations. So
we figure that just going through, they just get this general, you don't like us.
This is their first protest.
Well, that's good. And see, that's a good way to be.
Trying to introduce them into.
Like go with the discussion part of it, like people out talking about like this. Like the only thing I can say people agree on is that there's a problem. Now we got to figure out how, amongst people who see that there's a problem, how to do something about it.
What is the solution?
Because these other, the people who don't care about the problem aren't even going to get off the couch.
Right. Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah, instead of fighting about the solutions, because there's some of that going on in these other cities. You know, they like fight about like what type of solution. You know, some people are like more regulation, and some people are like, wait, the regulations and such are what got us to where we are. If we just let the banks fail. You know, so we got some.
And that was my thought even back then. Just let it go.
I mean, in the free market system, you fail, I fail, we lose. You know, those assets, they should have been bought up. Those empty buildings should have been sold to people like us, you know? And not only that, but at the same time,
even all the foreclosed homes that are vacant sitting around here.
If the bank, if it had collapsed,
we would pay $700 or $800 or $900 a month for housing Section 8 for someone instead of just giving them one of the daggone houses.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous.
And let them, you know, work, and they have to work and kind of build it up to top level, but eventually they get something they can work and put toward. But no, we want to throw away money, and why are we throwing it away? We throwing it away because we never made the person self-sufficient. We kept them dependent on us forever.
Right, I just got hit with that question earlier.
We're feeding, instead of teaching them how to do their own and take off.
They're telling me over there, what are you going to do? What are you going to do when there's hungry people? I'm like, well, I'm going to like show them how to make cookies, or I'm going to show them how to plant wheat, and we're going to grow, or I'm going to bake something, do something. I'm not going to go to this person and say, now you have to contribute, now you have to contribute, now you have to contribute for this good cause.
So to the point you can't even afford.
Yeah. Meanwhile, you got the Food Safety Act trying to. Meanwhile, you got an act in Congress.
That's a big deal. I get a lot of flack. But my children will tell you, really, I'm just particular about what we eat.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's a shame, but you can barely live for trying to afford safe food.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. What used to be normal food is now the high-end, expensive stuff. You know.
Right. Exactly.
That's how they. And then they say, look, we made food
to get it.
They say, okay, mommy, we can't buy this because this has such and such in it. And they know the danger.
Oh, that is so good. That is so awesome.
You can't touch it, and so we.
That's so awesome.
What's crazy is the reason this is happening. At least part of it is these giant corporations that want to take over
Monsanto,
Midland, and
ADM.
Yeah, you know, it's like they want to just make
the former head of Monsanto is now the head of the FDA.
Yes. That's not by accident either.
No, it's not.
My gut feeling, in all honesty, is there is no intent to fix the problem.
Right.
There has been a long-term effort to basically kill people off.
Yes.
Whatever way that we can.
Yes.
Medically.
Yeah.
Food supply.
Yes.
You've got the immunization crap going on.
Yes.
Emotionally,
we're not dying fast enough.
Right.
Give them a false.
Child protective services. We're destroying the family. I read the Communist Manifesto just 2 days ago.
Yeah.
And I'm like, whoa. When I was in high school, I read this, but I didn't.
We're there.
And it really hit
we're there for sure.
We're there because we've destroyed the family, and we're continuing to destroy
We got
the
a
family.
private central bank.
We got a private central bank.
Tell us how to raise our kids.
Oh, yeah.
Supersede the Constitution, and people have no rights. And you wonder why folk are losing their minds and going crazy and rioting.
There's no stability because everything that's supposed to mean anything and of any value is
There's no intent to
desecrated.
resolve this. There's no intent to resolve it. The intent is for us to all riot, kill each other, rally, whatever we're going to do, and get rid of as many as possible. The few that remain will be so medically messed up based on from immunization to food to lack of good health care. Everything will be so messed up that we cannot think outside the box and think ourselves out of the situation. I was telling the kids, I don't know if we'll ever own another home in the United States, because owning a home is not owning a home. You're leasing it. You're paying
property
for a certain
tax
amount of time.
Yeah.
You got property tax, and then when you die, whatever they say you owe, they're gonna come back and take that house in order to pay that anyway. So why spend all that time and money investing in a house that's gonna lose value, that they can walk into whenever they want to, and my great-grandchildren can't have access to.
The artificial
it's a waste.
fiat currency market's going to drive up the value of the home, but you're really not going to be able to afford those taxes in the home, even though its value's gone up. You've already worked and earned all them dollars at whatever rate you earned them, but now they don't buy what they did, and now your house has even said that it's worth so much more, and somehow you have to generate the tax revenue for that. It's like it's a system designed to squeeze.